Hey everyone, Anders here with another Black Desert video. Today we are going to go over one of the biggest test server patches we've seen in a while. There is a lot to go over, so make sure to use the chapters to skip ahead to what you are interested in, and please check out the Support Your Creator event for BDO that is currently running, where you can simply type in Anders whenever you make a purchase to give me a small kickback at no additional cost to you. Every little bit helps me keep making videos for you all. So let's start with Tier 10 Doom. Tier 10 is the highest tier of horse currently in the game. Doom is the last of the 3 mythical horses to appear and will allow you to summon 2 clones of itself for your friends to use. These clones will disappear after 10 minutes, but will be max level, and you can use a total of 16 skills while active. These are going to be all mobility skills, not the combat skills. They also have 2-seater, which allows a passenger to mount the horse as well, which means with one Tier 10 Doom, you can allow 6 people to travel, which is really cool. The second new skill for Tier 10 Doom is an additional dash that deals damage to those around you, and the third skill is a buffed version of your normal WE skill from the Tier 9 Doom. Tier 10 Doom looks amazing, so I will definitely be going for this one, but for those that are new to the game, don't know about mythical horses, you will need at least 1 male Tier 9 Doom and 1 female Tier 9 Doom to attempt Tier 10. The base success chance is 3%, and if you failed, you do not lose your Tier 9 Dooms and instead increase your success chance by 0.2% every fail. This new fail stack system applies to all Tier 10 horse attempts, not just Doom, so if you are attempting Tier 10 Doom, you fail 5 times, you now have a 4% chance, and if you attempt Tier 10 DNA, for example, then you will still have a 4% chance to succeed. The fail stack is account-wide and not tied to any one horse. Once you succeed, the base chance will reset to 3%. To help gather materials for these Tier 10 attempts, weekly quests will now offer you 2 mythical feathers instead of 1, and 50 royal fern roots instead of 30, which is a nice change. Tier 10 Ardonaut, the Pegasus, has been buffed to glide for a longer duration. Tier 10 Dine, the Unicorn, has been buffed to run 20 to 30% faster on water and will now consume 50% less special stamina while running on water, meaning you will now be able to travel a lot further on water than before. Sadly, I cannot test this on test server, so we will have to wait until next week when this releases in Korea. A new social action was added for female classes, a cross-legged emote that allows you to also do a sitting eating animation while consuming specific Land of the Morning Light meals. For class balance, we have 4 classes receiving major changes this week. The first is Awakening Ninja. Surakeo Spree has been overhauled. It is now on a 10-second cooldown, deals 12% more base damage in PvE, even more because of the 100% crit on all hits in both PvP and PvE, and recovers 500 health if all hits connect. This is possibly the coolest looking skill in the game right now, very anime inspired, but thankfully that's not all that Awakening Ninja is getting. Serpent Ascension now has a 9% evasion debuff on good hits instead of the critical hit rate buff it had before. Vacuum Slash no longer has forward guard and instead gains floating CC, down smash, and 100% crit rate to all hits. It will now link with other skills to be able to be used as a downward slashing animation through skill links. Flow Mach Explosion now has a forward guard, loses stiffness CC, and now does 16% less base damage in PvP, but now has the 100% crit rate, so it does a lot more damage. Flashing Light no longer has evasion debuff on hits, it is now iframe into super armor, no longer has down smash, and damage has been adjusted. It does 20% less base damage in PvP, but you now have the 100% crit rate in PvP for a lot more damage. Murderous Intent can be used from pre-awakening if you lock Ankle Cutter. Its cooldown has been doubled to 6 seconds. It now has a tier 2 add-on and a more powerful minus 20 DP debuff on hits. Silent Charge received some improvements to allow it to more smoothly activate as you stance swap. Shadow Slash now has an 18% critical hit rate buff for 10 seconds. Seamless now has 12 melee AP buff instead of 10 melee AP. Katana Shower now applies the inherent crit rate to PvP, and the 50% BSR version now has an AP buff instead of a crit rate buff. Damage has increased by 17% in PvE and 6% base damage in PvP, even more so because of the crit rate now being applied in PvP. Ninja Step now stops you immediately after using it in Awakening, although this was not the case when I tested it on test server. And those are the Awakening Ninja changes, looking very strong. I'm not sure if it will be enough to make it an S tier grinder simply because of the lack of AoE that Awakening Ninja has. Overall, a very good patch though, outside of the very obvious murderous intent nerf. Let me know what you think in the comments if you are a ninja main. Moving on to Awakening Kuno, lethal spin spree movement distance has increased while using the skill, and flow wrath has been revamped. It is basically a second lethal spin spree, looks really good. It is now called Circle Dance, no longer has down smash, and deals more than double the PvE damage than the old flow wrath skill. Moonstorm now has down smash and no longer has a DP debuff, and now deals 13% more damage in PvE. Lunar Dash now has an evasion buff of 9% for 10 seconds, and Halo now has a melee AP plus 20 buff instead of the evasion buff. Chain Crush now consumes mana instead of stamina, has 100% crit rate, and deals 14% more base damage. Saspria Sonin now deals 30% more damage in PvE. Chakram Rise now deals 8% more damage and now has a tier 2 add-on. Wheel of Wrath now deals 30% more damage in PvE, and lastly, Indignation now has a tier 2 add-on and deals 20% more damage in PvE. Awakening Kuno has been one of the weaker PvE classes for a while, so it should be interesting to see if these damage changes will help. The new skill flow does look really good, but let me know what you think in the comments. Moving on to Succession Nova, Axion will no longer consume your health and instead will consume your mana. That's a big change. Face the Darkness and Icy Kiss crit rate buff is now 50% for 5 seconds. Distorted Guard has an additional effect that prevents DP debuffs on you for 30 seconds. This applies to DP debuffs, DR debuffs, melee debuffs, shy DP debuffs. Those will not work while this effect is ongoing on Succession Nova. Star Skull is now 6 seconds, has better skill links, consumes stamina instead of mana, no longer has the charging animation, and no longer has an attack. It is purely a movement skill. So in some ways you lose the charging animation iframe duration, but you now have an iframe every 6 seconds with a faster animation link. Frozen Darkness now has an improved link with Icy Fog, and the first hit of the skill has been removed and the other hits buffed. It's still a 14% damage decrease in PvE. Karatum's Ascension has greater movement before the attack, and a DP debuff has been removed and replaced with a 10% movement speed buff for 10 seconds. Stama's Mate has better links. Karatum's Earthra Bomb now deals 23% more damage in PvE. Storming Star has been revamped. It now gains a prime version called Raging Storming Star and deals 172% more damage than the absolute version, not including the pawn damage. An absolute beast of a skill. Vengeful Star has been consolidated into the absolute, so when you are in Succession you can see the prime version while hovering over it. This is to make room for the new prime Storming Star skill. Thornwood Guards and Axion all do a little bit less damage in PvP than before to compensate for all the added damage in this patch. Lastly, Icy Fog now consumes just 50 stamina instead of 200, which is really good. Really big buffs for Succession Nova, another class that was on the weaker side in PvE. We'll see if this damage is enough to compensate. I'll definitely be trying her out when these changes go live, but let me know what you think in the comments. Moving on to Awakening Maegu. Emberclaw Slash now has an instacast with LMB after certain skills like Emberclaw Finale, for example. Huge for the skill to speed up your animations and combos. Your Spirit Forge buff will no longer be removed when dashing or using normal skills. Instead, it will retain its current level until you refresh the buff with a Spirit Forge skill. This change is a big deal. It means your damage shouldn't fluctuate too much if you're dashing around while trying to do your combo. Twirling Crane is now a Shift E input, and Emberclaw Crush is now just an E input, meaning easier combos, easier on the fingers. Twirling Fox Flare can now be linked with your dash, and Twirling Rhapsody instantly. And lastly, Fox Flare Flash is now a tier 2 add-on, which is really good. That's your R&B skill. You're always using that one. These changes are small, but honestly very significant to Awakening Maegu, should help with damage consistency. Let me know what you think in the comments. And finally, we have Succession Maegu. They have changed the range of some skills, though try as I might, I could not tell a difference. Maybe it will be active in the Korean patch next week, or maybe the range change is really not that noticeable. They did change the way the hits work, but damage overall has not changed. Bristling Sparks did get a 5% damage buff, but that's pretty much it. Flower Shroud no longer has split damage, which is a buff in mass PvP, but Flower Shroud is one of those skills with reduced range now. We just have to wait and see how much range has reduced, if at all. Heavenward Dance no longer has an AP debuff. Spirited Away no longer has an accuracy buff. That has been moved to your A, L, and B skill, your Bared Claws, but the duration of the buff is now 5 seconds to reflect the CD of Bared Claws. Bared Claws also loses that evasion debuff it had, so you no longer have an evasion debuff on Succession Maegu. Overall, I'd say it was a slight nerf again to Succession Maegu, more for PvP, but the evasion debuff being gone and the shorter duration of the accuracy buff will impact your PvE damage as well. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think we're going to continue to see Succession Maegu nerfs, or do you think that's pretty much it? Moving on from class balance, there's still a lot to get through. The Archaeologist map, the treasure item, and the Traveler's map are now on separate cooldowns, which is a very nice and heavily requested change finally coming to the game. Group enhancing is being added. You have to be in a party of 5 players. You all have to be enhancing the same level of item, so if you're all going for pen, then this will work. Using crons is optional for everyone, and the fail stacks are of course unique to each player. The success rate is the same as if you were enhancing alone. Everyone in the party needs to be near each other as well for this to work, and once you satisfy all of these requirements, everyone has to click the ready button and the game will enhance all of your items at once. Kind of a cool idea, definitely a thing to do with your guildies and friends, so I'm happy to see more social stuff like this. Terrmian Beach is coming back as well. This is a summer event that usually happens every year but was not happening this year since we are getting that new Dragon Palace event later this month. Players, however, were asking for Terrmian Beach to come back regardless, so we have an event at Terrmian Beach for 2 weeks starting next week. Desert debuff is something that a lot of new players are probably going to be annoyed by. It's a bit of a hassle, so they have introduced Oasis buffs. If you enter the water at the Oasis node in Valencia, you will get a resistance buff to heat stroke to help you with your travels. The same thing will happen at night if you stand near the bonfire in the same location. You will get a hypothermia resist buff to help you. Cool little update. Wish I had that back when Valencia first came out. Would have been very useful. Old Moon furniture workshops have also been added to Talbot Village, which allows you to craft the Haso furniture set, which is nice to see. Battle Arena has been expanded, so the houses are gone and we now have more PvP dummies to practice with. It's a godsend. Honestly, it's been really hard testing lately with the recent popularity of the game, so these are very nice, especially for newer players who want to test out PvP combos with the dummies. Magnus got some improvements to help with some of the more buggy missions. It's been made easier as well for newer and returning players to get through it faster. Every single infinite potion spot now has double respawn rates for monsters, which means your rotations can be smaller and more people can grind there to get their infinite potions. Really good quality of life change on this one. Again, I wish I had this when I grinded out my potion pieces a while back, but happy to see it implemented into the game. Olun's Valley minion colossus will no longer disappear when the bigger colossus is defeated. They will naturally disappear after 2 minutes of no combat. Guild bosses have been improved to give more fail stacks than before, which again is a good social quality of life change for the game, really helpful for newer players joining guilds. Novice inventory has also been added. This is a bag that allows you to store 50 more items than your current inventory, and there is no weight limit for this bag. Trash loot from monsters from grinding cannot be placed in here, but most other items can. When your novice buff ends, you won't be able to use this novice bag anymore, but you can still take out items you placed in there. Overall, inventory has been updated to include categories so you can better sort your items and see what is actually in your inventory. Looking really good as well. I'm actually pretty excited for this one since I have terrible inventory management. Land of the Morning Light had some changes as well. Since new players can choose to start in the new region, they can now teleport to Balanos and back to Land of the Morning Light for free, which is a huge update. Your Succession and Awakening quest conditions have also been improved to make it less of a hassle to do when you're still in Land of the Morning Light. They have improved early main quests to speed you along the story, and they have removed all level restrictions for things like stable use and chat. They have added a ton of little guides and notices in the form of text bubbles or NPCs that will explain some of the more mundane things in the game, which may seem like common sense for us veterans but can be confusing for someone new to BDO. And that's a Global Labs patch for this week. If this is the first time you're hearing about Global Labs, these are patches patches that are sort of previews for what is to come for Korea next week, and then global patches for the following week. Sometimes we do get updates alongside Korea, like many of the things we talked about today. Perlibis seems to be very busy lately, so it's good to see. Let me know what you think about the update in the comments down below, and a reminder, support your creator event is on. Every purchase you make, you can use the code Anders. Capitalization does not matter, and at no additional cost to you, I will get a small kickback, which is always appreciated. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.